All right, guys. We're back for our long-awaited return for the Brotherhood Ballad. Today, I am very grateful for Justin for letting me kind of do my own one-off here. I'll explain later, but Justin, if you just want to give a quick intro while you're doing your stuff on CFB, and then I'll kick it off.
Yeah, so I wanted you to talk about UFC because you were really excited about it. But this is just the beginning of multiple topics that are going to be discussed on this channel within the next 24 hours. So.
Yeah, we're back together for a few days, so we're going to get a bunch of episodes out for you guys. The Brotherhood Ballad is back and better than ever. Tomorrow we'll give you a little nugget on what tomorrow's going to be about. So we're going to go down to, I don't know if we'd call it a podcast sponsor, but it's just like more of a partnership is a better way to put it. We're going to go down and work at our partner's venue, and we'll give you guys some more insight on that tomorrow. You'll see.
For the coffee lovers, you'll like it.
Yeah, for the coffee lovers, even for the tea drinkers, you guys will like that too.
Even just like good pastries.
Yeah.
You'll find out more tomorrow.
Yeah. You'd probably have to be a pretty weird person to not like what we're going to do tomorrow. But yeah. And then feel free, just to chime in at any point throughout the segment. But
shout out to Dana White.
Yeah. Shout out to Uncle Dana. Always keeping things afloat. Definitely kept things afloat during COVID. Was essentially really the only live sports in COVID. Was technically the first sports back from COVID. In the U.S. The German Soccer League was technically first throughout the whole entire world of sports, but UFC being back first in the U.S. And so I digress, but for all of you guys who are big combat sports fans, we got a huge announcement from Dana White last night in terms of some upcoming fights that were announced, and I'll go into that. Also, we have a big DAZN pay-per-view boxing card this weekend. It's part of Riyadh Season Live from the Kingdom. So I'll just just kind of touch into that really quick.
Bronze.
Some big news coming out. There was Daniel Dubois and Joseph Parker were supposed to fight for the heavyweight undisputed belt this Saturday in Riyadh, but this morning Daniel Dubois pulled out and cited medical reasons for that. But we also have a couple bangers on this card. This is the Artur Beterbiev Dimitri Bivol fight. I believe this is their second fight in the rematch for the undisputed light heavyweight championship. Also, Shakur Stevenson is on this card as well. He's fighting Josh Padley for the WBC lightweight title. Last time Shakur was out for his fight, a lot of fans were severely disappointed about his performance and walked out of the arena early due to a boring fight. A lot of people kind of talked about how Stevenson kind of fought like Floyd Mayweather, super defensive, almost like comparable to like a Sean Strickland-esque in the UFC, which I agree with, but you got to do what you got to do to win the fight. Defensive fighting is not fun to watch, but it definitely allows you to win the fight. But I will have to say that when Shakur is on, his offense is good. He's a really good counter striker, and I hope we can see a little bit more from him. But one of the most exciting fights I'm looking forward to is actually the Joshua Bautista fight versus Callum Smith. Callum Smith being the undefeated Irish boxer that Dana White supports a lot and comes out to a lot of his fights. So we move on. There's going to be a lot of more fights coming on later in the year. Obviously, Canelo signing that fight package with Turki Al-Sheikh, and then all that news of him supposedly fighting Jake Paul falling through pretty quick there. And then, so we'll talk about more boxing as it comes, but this weekend's going to be great. I know we have upcoming here, I believe that's the March 1st card in Brooklyn at the Barclays Center. We have Gervonta Davis fighting, I think is Lamont Roche for the WBA lightweight title, which will be good. I like Gervonta Davis a lot. He's got a heavy hand, being in that lightweight division. And then, yeah, we've got up later in March a London card, and then, moving forward, there's going to be a lot more Riyadh season fights. And so we will talk more about that later. But moving on to the more important news, the more pressing matters, is what Dana White talked about last night in the fights that were released. The biggest news being Ilia Topuria vacating his featherweight championship after one title defense, claiming that he can no longer make weight at 145, and talking about how he has cemented his legacy. Now, if we look at the featherweight division since its inception, you have people like Alexander Volkanovski and Jose Aldo who have multiple title defenses, even Max Holloway too. You have some of the greatest fighters of all time. And yes, Ilia knocked out both Max and Volk. Saying that you cemented your title legacy after one title defense is pretty weak. Citing that there's nothing at the division for him anymore. Ilia Topuria is young, quick, fast fighter, and saying that he can't make 145 anymore is kind of a joke. Back when I started watching UFC, these fighters wouldn't be, chomping at the bit to move up a division and become a double champ right away. You have people like GSP who cleared out the whole division before finally moving up to fight Michael Bisping. Conor's really the only example of somebody who really did that without, defending the belt, obviously beating Chad Mendes and then Jose Aldo to claim the featherweight belt, and then moving up to lightweight to fight Eddie Alvarez at the first New York card that the UFC had after it got legalized in the state. And becoming the first ever simultaneous double champ. And then you have people like Henry Cejudo, who also defended both belts, bantamweight and flyweight at the same time. So it's just, doing this is just reserved for very special people and very special fighters, in which I don't believe that Ilia Topuria has done enough to become someone who's regarded as that. Like, yeah, you knocked out two greats, but you knocked out two greats who are several years older than you. There's a lot of potential contenders at that featherweight division for Ilia Topuria. The biggest one being like Diego Lopez, Brian Ortega. There's a lot of good guys. Movsar Evloev. The talent runs fairly deep. Like the top 10 spots in the featherweight division are all great title defenses for Ilia. And so I don't personally agree with this decision. We can look over right now the live rankings out of the featherweight division and go a little bit forward from there. So if we look at the featherweight division right now, Volk 1, Max Holloway 2, Diego Lopez 3, Movsar Evloev 4, Yair Rodriguez 5, Brian Ortega 6, and the list goes on and on. Like, you have Josh Emmett at 8, who just turned Bryce Mitchell into a neo-Nazi, if you saw his podcast, and what Dana White and the world felt about that. We do not support Bryce Mitchell whatsoever. His comments were disgusting. We don't stand for anything like that. If you try to defend Hitler in any way, you're a sick individual. And so after seeing what Bryce Mitchell said, and then seeing what Josh Emmett did before him, Josh Emmett knocked him out so bad he was convulsing on the octagon, so he kind of turned him into the football's version of AB. But Bryce Mitchell's a sick individual. Anyways, there's a lot at featherweight still for Ilia to do, and for some reason he doesn't want to do it. But I digress. And so with Ilia vacating the main event at UFC 14, live from Miami, Florida, the Kaseya Center where the Heat play, we have Alexander Volkanovski versus Diego Lopez for the vacant UFC featherweight belt, which is going to be a banger 5-round fight. That's going to be action from second one to the final bell in the 5th round, if it even makes it that long. Personally, I don't think it's going 5 rounds. If it does go 5 rounds, it's going to be a barn burner. They're going to have to get the ambulances ready at the back of the stadium or the arena, and they're going to need to go because it's going to be crazy.
Is the over-under 2.5 for rounds?
I don't know if the betting lines have been announced, but it'll probably be, I'd say 3.5.
3.5?
And the co-main event at UFC 314, we have number 7 ranked UFC lightweight Michael Chandler who since he's been signed with the UFC from Bellator, all but one of his fights has ended in a performance bonus for him. We all saw what he did to Tony Ferguson. Sad part of Tony Ferguson's career. He's been nothing but a showman for the UFC. Like, yeah, he hasn't won very many of his 6 or 7 fights, but it's the performances that he puts that gets us all exciting and watching. And he is fighting the number 12 ranked lightweight Paddy Pimblett, Liverpool's own. I personally hate Paddy Pimblett. I think he lost to Jared Gordon in December of 2023, I believe that was. He's not a fun fighter. He's just not it. And I'm really hoping Michael Chandler is able to pull that out. Big signing news: the UFC signed Patricio Pitbull from the PFL Bellator merger, and he is going to be taking on the number 5 ranked Yair Rodriguez, which is going to be a banger of a fight. Yair being the former interim champion for featherweight, and Patricio Pitbull defending his belt several times in the PFL Bellator era. And then another couple fights. Dan 50K Ige is taking on Sean Woodson on the prelims, I believe. We also have Jean Naunjan, the number 1 ranked UFC strawweight for women, fighting on Virna Jonarova. However you say that, I butchered it like crazy. But that's going to be a fun card to watch. So yeah, get the popcorn ready. It's going to be taking place on, I believe that is April 12th, live from Miami, Florida. Moving forward, we go to the UFC 315 Montreal card that is going to be taking place May 10th in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, at the Bell Center, I believe that is. And some big fight news from there. Bilal Muhammad, the most boring champion in the UFC, is taking on a hell of a fighter in Jack Della Maddalena. JDM is one of the most entertaining people in the welterweight division. Dana talked about on his live last night that they had called Shavkat multiple times because Shavkat was respectfully next in line. And Shavkat had told the UFC, man, he's injured, he's not ready. This morning he went on X and Instagram and talked about how he appreciates the UFC's integrity for calling him first, like they said, and that he promises that he'll be ready to fight the winner. Regardless of who wins, JDM or Bilal Muhammad, that next fight is going to be a banger of a matchup. So, originally, JDM was supposed to take on Leon Edwards in the main event of the London Fight Night card, and I'll talk about that in a second here. The co-main event in that card is going to be the current champion, in my opinion, the best women's fighter of all time, Valentina Shevchenko versus France's own Manon Fiorot at the Women's Flyweight Championship. Manon has the chance to become the first true champion in France's history ever. Obviously, as you guys know, Cyril Gane was an interim champion, but that does not count. And so, with that, we go to the London card. The new main event will be Leon Edwards versus Sean Brady. Sean Brady out of Philly, man, he's a hell of a fighter. He lost to Bilal. I believe that was UFC 280 in October in Abu Dhabi, like 2023 or 2. Also on that Montreal card. On the Montreal card. Originally set for Miami because Gilbert Burns, who the fight is Gilbert Burns versus Michael Morales. This is going to be a heater of a fight. Michael Morales is a killer. Michael Morales is a great striker. And, Gilbert Burns is just an all-around technical great fighter. In my opinion, I believe he beat Hamzat Chimaev when they fought. He's been nothing but barn burners. I'd say his most boring fight was when he fought Kamaru Usman for the welterweight championship in Vegas in the Apex, probably because it was 1 in the Apex and 2 is during COVID. But this fight was originally booked and scheduled for UFC 314, now moved up to UFC 315 in Montreal, Canada. So now, going back to Ilya, a lot of questions that the people in the live had were for Dana were like, what's Ilya doing? All the stuff about Ilya. And Dana said there is something in the works. There's nothing signed, and he'll let us know when they figured out something with Ilya. And for me, I think Ilya needs to earn a shot at a UFC lightweight championship title fight. So I think fighting someone like, it's just tough because the lightweight top 10 right now. Arman Tsarukyan 1, Charles Oliveira 2, Justin Gaethje 3, Dustin Poirier 4, Max Holloway 5, and Dan Hooker 6, Michael Chandler 7. So rumors right now that are pretty legit are that Arman Tsarukyan and Charles Oliveira are going to fight in a number 1 title fight eliminator, 5 rounds, most likely to be taking place at UFC Chicago. So they're booked. Justin Gaethje is going to be in the fight of the year against Dan Hooker at UFC 313 in Vegas, co-main eventing to Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev for the light heavyweight championship. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of the top 12 fighters in the lightweight division already booked. So that brings us to this. Do we think Ilya should fight for the title off the rip? I don't think so. But the UFC fans probably would love to see that. I know Dana and the rest of the UFC leadership team would also probably approve it, mainly because of how well ticket sales are going to be and, the social media views that's going to get. And, talk about a potential fight against Dustin Poirier. We all know that Dustin Poirier is going to... he's talked about this is his last fight. Like, the UFC is making a main card pay-per-view at the Smoothie King Center in New Orleans, probably for Dustin's, retirement fight. So, based off of everything that he said, the general consensus in the MMA community is that Dustin Poirier is on his retirement fight. So do we believe that Dustin Poirier should fight Ilya Topuria for his retirement fight? The answer is no, because he said only legends. And Ilya Topuria is not a legend. And so, what does that look like? Maybe Dustin Poirier versus Max Holloway. Maybe Dustin Poirier versus the winner of Gaethje Hooker. It's just a lot. And so I think there's going to be a lot of questions that need to be answered at lightweight. And so I think this summer and then into the early fall there's going to be quite a bit of fight news coming out in terms of the lightweight division. And then we have a couple huge announcements too. Sorry guys, 1 second here. So I believe March 29th is the fight night in Kansas City. Kansas City's been getting fight nights for the past couple of years. And the I believe it's actually April. 1 second guys here. Let me get the dates right for you. Yeah, sorry. So I was right. So UFC Fight Night, Kansas City at the T-Mobile Center is supposed to be taking place on April 26th, live from the T-Mobile Center. It's a great venue for a fight. I went there when Max Holloway fought Arnold Allen. But the likely main event for that right now is supposed to be Kamaru Usman versus Joaquin Buckley. Hopefully Kamaru Usman's old 38 ass gets up off the couch and his dusty ass knees, because Kamaru Usman is the second best welterweight of all time. I want to see him fight for the title one more time, and I think a 5-round fight against Joaquin Buckley will definitely cement him. I think when he fought Hamza Chimaev coming on 2 years now, he should have won that. I think he won that even in the 3rd round, even in the 3-round fight that it was. But if it was 5 rounds, he would have won probably 3 rounds to 2, maybe even 4 rounds to 1. And then the following weekend, we are supposed to be getting UFC Des Moines, which is unheard of. For all my people in the Des Moines, the Midwest area, this is huge. given the fact that I'm from Des Moines, I'm going to be all over this event and the Kansas City event. This is like Christmas in May, or yeah, Christmas in May. Crazy stuff. And this afternoon, it's likely that Corey Sandhagen will be taking on Davison Figueiredo in a 5-round main event in UFC Des Moines, which is, I mean, thank you, Dana. Thank you, Hunter. Thank you, Sean, because that is going to be an insane matchup. The number 4 versus number 5 bantamweights fighting in Des Moines, Iowa at Wells Fargo Arena. I mean, this is going to be just exactly what Iowa needs. You know, something better than some AAA crap. You know, some real fighters coming. That single main event alone will be enough. I mean, I was going to go to this regardless of how bad the fights were, but this is like, I mean, man, this is Christmas. I couldn't be more excited. I feel like a little kid in a candy shop when I saw this morning. And then, like I had talked about earlier, UFC Chicago, most likely going to be Oliveira Sarukian. I mean, that is insane. Man, it's an exciting time to be a UFC fan. I mean, this is just terrific. One thing I want to see is my queen Thug Rose Namajunas get back in the octagon. I want to see her try to have another chance at claiming the title. She's currently the number 6 ranked UFC flyweight, formerly the UFC strawweight champion, knocking out Zhang Weili with that a beautiful head kick at the first UFC pay-per-view post-COVID. But yeah, tons of UFC news, guys. If I were you and you're not already somewhat into UFC, kind of look past. I look past how Dana, you know, views certain things because he is a Trump supporter and not a lot of, you know, he gets a lot of flack for that. But you know, I would just look past him and just look at the business as a whole. The UFC is one of the most fun live sporting events you can watch. I've been to multiple live events and can say that it's all 3 of the events I've been to are easily in the top live sporting moments of my life. It's just nothing but action packed the whole night for 4 hours, 5 hours. It's great. Yeah, so overall, I'd say tons of big news coming out about the UFC. Boxing's kind of dead, but there is a really good card this weekend, like I talked about at the top of the hour. And I would definitely try to tune in. And then also this weekend we have UFC Seattle. The first time they've been back to Seattle in a while. They're at the Climate Pledge Arena, which is where the Seattle Storm play, the WNBA team. Which, in sad news there's been a ton of pullouts on this card. Dominic Cruz being the biggest one. Supposed to fight Rob Font. Dominic Cruz is a UFC and WEC legend. As you guys know, Dominic Cruz has had several ACL tears his knee ligaments throughout his entire career, which has had horrible implications on his career. But nonetheless, Dominic Cruz is going to be a Hall of Fame UFC fighter one day. But that main event, banger main event, we've got Henry Cejudo Triple C versus Song Yadong. Triple C obviously being the only ever triple champ in the sport. He got a gold medal in the 2008 Olympics for wrestling, and then simultaneously defended the flyweight and the bantamweight title in the UFC. Anyways, guys, go do your research. This is going to be a great upcoming few months for the UFC. If you guys haven't watched it or just think it's like, you know, like human death and things like that, just give it a chance. Like, you guys will, once the first ever UFC fight I watched, I could never stop watching it from that point on. Yeah, that's all I can really say. Definitely watch it. It'll be something that you'll be a fan of for the rest of your life. Man, I need a refreshment.
Good player.
Yeah, throat's a little dry. I need a little refreshment here. Oh, nice, some water. Sorry about that, guys.
I'm murdering this.
Just a little drink break here. Got some Smart Water. They're not our sponsor, but Smart Water's good.
Howdy.
All right, my palate is cleansed.
We're back.
Yeah, but anyways, moving past UFC, we got our friend Brock Lee coming over here in a little bit, and then we're gonna go over to the movie theater here later tonight to watch this new mid Marvel movie. What's new? Marvel making mid movies. I know that's gonna be a take you guys won't like, but yeah, tomorrow is gonna be action packed. We will be, you guys will see. In the morning, we're all going to have our merchandise on. We're all going to be repping everything. So be ready. There's more to come. And then tomorrow we're going to be talking about just going over some March Madness stuff, mock drafts for the NFL. We're going to be going over a lot of stuff tomorrow. So make sure you buckle up. It's going to be a good one. Also, in one of our podcasts tomorrow, one of the episodes is going to be us kind of giving the background story of how, us in this place of business kind of, came together and started working together. So be in touch for that. Do you want to tell the...
Sorry about that.
You want to let the audience know what's so funny? Let them know.
Playing my video game is just so funny.
Yeah.
The mini game.
Justin's playing
College football mini
college
game.
football mini games, yeah. But also, like we had talked about in one of our previous episodes, Justin and I and our friend Sherrard, shout out Sherrard. Also Alec, thanks for the plug. Thanks for listening. I appreciate you giving this show a shot. But yeah, we're going to Minneapolis Easter weekend for the Kendrick Lamar and SZA concert. Opening show on the tour. So hopefully we're going to pull up in a Grand National, a black Grand National to be precise. We're going to rock up Minneapolis. It's going to be a great time. I'm more there for SZA because we love some SZA. Also, I'll digress and kind of talk a little bit about music stuff. We'll make it a little 2-for-1 right here while I'm on it, because now I got my mind on music and potential shows and whatnot. But also, May 16th in Chicago, Illinois, we have Central C, his Can't Rush Greatness tour from his album that he just dropped called Can't Rush Greatness. We'll be going to that too. It's at a smaller venue. It's not like the United Center or anything, just because he's still on the come up. And then we'll also be going to Lil Skies in Woolies in Des Moines, Iowa, technically. Hopefully we can get Brother Pete out there, Brother Willie Pete, because Lil Skies and Willie Pete are from the same area. Chambersburg represent. And then in June, we have The Weeknd, Playboi Carti, and Mike Dean. June 14th at the same place where we're going to see Kendrick Lamar and SZA. So this is just going to be a great summer filled with action. Also, a lesser-known artist that I just found about by the name of Tate McRae supposedly is dropping an album tonight, and she's also going on tour. She just announced her tour and all the dates, so I guess if you guys know who she is or is interested in her music, go on to Ticketmaster and you can sign up for her pre-sale for tickets. She's going all over the USA. And actually our other brother here, Brock Lee, just stepped in the room, so you guys will see him on camera tomorrow. But yeah, other than that, I appreciate Justin for giving me the chance for this one-off. And you will see a lot from us this weekend. And other than that, thank you.
Okay. Jumping into it.
You ready for your big day tomorrow?
Huge day.